Welcome to the third episode of the Fall 2023 in-depth analysis. Today on the menu, Map 03, a high-speed tarmac track which requires various water shenanigans and precise steering inputs to achieve the fastest time. The map can be divided into 4 sections: the start, the water, the left turn, and the ending. Our first run uses secure strategies and refrains from any inputs until the jump. As soon as the car is in a horizontal position, tap brake to stabilize the rotation. After the landing, wait a short time to gain full grip and continue steering to the left afterwards. This run activates 80% action key for the first turn and uses the entire space available. If playing with a pad, attempt to stay below this value to not slide out. When reaching around the third of the way up the hill, full steering is possible again to adjust the line. We will see this later on. When approaching the water section, aim for the middle of the checkpoint to, in the best case, reach the water without airtime. Jumping a tiny bit is not too much of an issue, as we will also see later on. Refrain from inputs during the water section. Make sure to angle the car to the left when jumping from the dirt. For now, slide the turn and avoid the penalty grass on both sides. If playing camera 1, it is possible to switch to camera 2 or 3 for increased visibility. Keep driving straight without any inputs in the remaining water and reach the finish on the right side. To avoid sliding out completely, this run already makes use of the 60% action key, but hits the finish fairly late. When playing with a controller, get as close to sliding out as possible, which will change depending on the speed and requires some getting used to. The second run starts off by taking a slight detour to the right to increase traction on the road. When driving straight, the car does not have as much grip as when driving diagonally down the hill. The remaining start stays the same, but this time driven with controller. As previously mentioned, this run does not get the entry without additional airtime and loses some speed. A slight correction in the second water is performed to fix the angle and exit the water straight. Steering up to 40% is possible without losing speed. The goal is to perform another no slide, just like in the start, after the water. Attempt to exit the water as straight as possible, while releasing when jumping across the dirt if necessary. This again requires some feeling for the maximum speed and angle where the turn is still possible. If the car is back to full grip, in the best case right after the landing, hold left and avoid the penalty grass. The further right the exit out of the water, the more speed can be kept while still making the turn, which will also apply for future runs. The ending remains the same, with a more inside finish. The third run further tightens the line in the start until the water. Here, a completely different strategy is applied. Instead of dropping in the first pool, a far jump with the car angled 90 degrees to the right allows directly jumping into the second one and bouncing to the other side. As each bounce costs some speed, this strategy is faster overall, but requires some extra information. First, to achieve the angle, aim to jump as close to the top bar of the checkpoint as possible. By holding full right before taking off and in the air, the car will achieve the necessary momentum to turn 90 degrees. Now we get to the interesting part. Depending on how far the jump is overall, the less steering is necessary to clear the gap, as steering and the water will trade speed for height. To gain a better feeling for the effect, reset a couple rounds with a 90 degrees setup at the CP. It is also possible to overjump the dirt block at the landing, which has to be touched to dry the wheels and make the turn. While you can keep crazy amounts of speed over the water, a short release is required to be able to make the turn. Again, setups to the right enable a better racing line. This run has to release multiple times due to exiting the water too much inside. The rest of the run remains the same. The next runs only execute the previous strategy more cleanly besides a couple improvements, showing how much of a time gain is possible. The fourth one manages to finally exit the water to the right, and while having to hesitate to enter the turn, keeps way more speed. In the ending, another precise strategy is included, where the remaining water can be skipped, leading into lower airtime and tons of extra speed. To execute this, aim for a very small angle facing the wall and hit the pool border to the right below the surface. This run includes a 20% steering input to the left, which is not required to make the jump successfully. If done correctly, an earlier landing will acquire extra time until the finish. For our fifth and final run, we take a look at solely vegans. With this highly optimized run, Already after the initial water, a short speed slide can gain a couple additional speeds. The main difference though lies in the setup for the left turn, where barely enough dirt is contacted to dry the wheels. A perfectly timed release and entry into the turn allow to keep maximum speed, even requiring releasing the left steering to not slide out too early. When the run was driven, the last boost strategy did not yet exist. We go to the final comparison where the major differences in lines will be more visible. While a tight line matters in the start, most of the time results from keeping speed during the water and the left turn. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any feedback or questions, feel free to leave a comment or head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/SaPure7. Would love to see you there. Hope you enjoyed.